Hi, ladies. Welcome to Pathways to Fertility, a YouTube station dedicated to the women who are on the journey to conceive, especially dedicated to the women who are on the journey to improve their egg quality, their well being, and their overall fertility. I am Samantha Jacobs. I'm a licensed acupuncturist in Connecticut and New York. I have specialized in fertility since 2003. Today's video, we're going to be delving into the 10 questions in Chinese medicine. This is how we explore your fertility, your well-being, so that we can start to be curious and understand the layers of your biodiversity and how we can directly change things to improve your fertility. In the last video, I talked about how Chinese medicine explores the biodiversity of your fertility, your rainforest, and how we develop a map of what's going on from the tree tops down to the ground, that we are starting to explore and understand your fertility and what we need to do to address it. How do we explore your biodiversity? We ask the 10 questions. We want to understand you and your physiology, your health, so that we can help you determine what are the best steps for you to improve your fertility. What I see commonly with women is a lot of frustration. Women get grouped into very broad categories in Western medicine: poor egg quality. And then when you're out there trying to figure out how do you improve your egg quality, often it feels like you're just trying to grab some commonalities with another woman. Maybe she's the same age, she has the same FSH, she's had the same result in IVF, and you implement what she has been doing to see if it will improve your fertility. Women get frustrated. It's often, right, very mixed results. I'm hopeful that as we go through these 10 questions, you can start to understand your own biodiversity. Our first question is going to be about body temperature. This is a good way to look at how do you keep yourself comfortable in your environment. This will also include how comfortable does your limbs, feet, and hands stay? And are you overly sensitive to certain environments? In general, I see sort of three broad categories. We have the neutral, where the woman is able to stay comfortable in her environment. She's not hot nor cold. She can easily transition from different temperatured environments and have very little issues in keeping herself warm. I also see more commonly being very cold, being super sensitive to cold environments. And on the other side, I see women who are very warm, feel very sensitive to heat. So before I go in and delve into more of the body temperature, I do want to say I practice in New York and Connecticut in the New England area, and we clearly have 4 seasons in New England. You may find that some of the things I'm talking about may not apply to you because you're either in a tropical environment or an environment that leans more towards the winter time. So everything can vary. If you have any questions, just, you can feel free to post and I will be able to help clarify any of that, any lingering questions. We're going to talk about first the cold presentation. Now, this is the most common thing I see in my practice, especially the women who are in their 30s. They are super sensitive to cold. They will also present with cold hands, cold feet, cold butt, cold nose. So you're not only feeling cold in the core of your body, but that there is also an inability to circulate your internal heat to your extremities, including your nose and butt. This may also include feeling very cold only in your lower body. So you may feel comfortable in, your from your belly button up to the top of your head, but that when it comes to the lower portion of your body, it's cold. You have cold legs and cold butt, and it's much harder for you to keep that lower portion of your body warm, where you may just only be wearing a t-shirt up above. You may actually enjoy very hot temperatures. It may be just such a relief to be in 90-degree heat and humidity that it is sometimes, for these women, the best time of the year. Yes, this is a cold presentation. Being that I'm a traveling acupuncturist, I treat my patients in their home. I had a patient who kept her house heated to 83 degrees and with a wood stove. I would treat her right up close to this wood stove. For me, it was sweltering and incredibly hot. For my patient, it was very warm, very comfortable. And this was the only way that she could keep herself warm, was to contain herself at home in a very hot environment. I've also experienced clients with very, very severe hands and feet that are cold, being, 90 degrees outside, incredibly hot, that they still have cold feet and they need to even wear socks, sweaters, sweatpants in some of the hottest days, that to have bare skin exposed to the environment led to them feeling incredibly cold. So these are two more unusual far end, but it kind of gives you an example of the spectrum of how women can feel cold inside of their bodies. If you're presenting with any of these types of cold symptoms, it's worth having your thyroid checked. These could be related to hypothyroidism, and that could greatly affect your fertility. It's worth getting some blood work, mentioning to your doctor, and seeing what's going on. On the other side of the spectrum, we have the woman who's super sensitive to heat, needs AC, needs a way to stay cool. In general, what I've seen in my practice is that women who are moving into their middle 40s, 42 to say 46, this will start to creep on as estrogen is slowly starting to dip. This changes the brain's ability to self-regulate the body temperature, and women will become more exceedingly sensitive to heat. Often when I speak to these women, they come to my practice, we're talking about this. Interestingly enough, often many of them will say, I was freezing cold through my 30s, and now either I'm super sensitive to heat or I'm comfortable. Now, often there is a switch over, which is important to relay to your acupuncturist. In the presentation of being too warm, this is super sensitive to mild heat, can't function in hot heat, wearing very little clothing in the wintertime. I had a woman who would come to me in the dead of winter, no socks, pair of shorts, and a short-sleeved t-shirt under a jacket. I'd show up and I didn't know how she wasn't freezing cold. She was so warm that this was her way of regulating the heat in her body. Interesting layers is that if it's hot and humid, the combination make you feel miserable. Like heat itself doesn't make you feel miserable, right? Dry heat, you're fine. Hot and humid makes you miserable. It's worth noting to your acupuncturist. Just being unable to thoroughly cool yourself down. You may find like you'll sweat profusely and you feel miserable. Like there's absolutely no relief from the sensation of heat. Feeling comfortable in your body, but very hot hands or feet. You may notice you'll get a malar flush. You could be having sensations of heat in your body with headaches or migraines. Two unusual presentations worth noting. First one I just mentioned, the patient who, when I treated her, no socks, shorts, t-shirt in the dead of winter. I also had a patient who kept her house consistently winter and summer at 63 degrees. Everybody in the family was freezing cold and she was comfortable. I was even freezing cold. I couldn't wait to get out of her house to go warm up because it was so cold inside. These are presentations of your internal ability to manage your temperature that gives us information about how we could help to improve your fertility. When we're looking at the layers of the physical manifestation of how you control your body temperature, in Chinese medicine, we're starting to see how things are out of balance, how your energy needs to be redirected. One of the most common analogies I like to use is the idea of an old-fashioned, really old-fashioned kitchen with a big hearth, a fire, a stew pot, hanging on a chain from inside the fireplace. And in the idea of this neutrality, imbalance, you walk into the kitchen, it's warm, the fire is not roaring, it's not dead, it's just right. The stew pot is bubbling. The stew is being made. It's got the right amount of temperature that everything is cooking appropriately. There's some steam coming off. And there's just a sense of being comfortable in this environment that you want to pull up a chair and you get the ladle out and you scoop out some soup and you're sitting in a chair and everything is just right. The soup is nourishing. You're eating, you're having this relaxing time sitting by the fire. When we're looking at a cold presentation, this would be that the fire has been greatly diminished and the stew pot is taking much longer to boil and simmer. So you're not having a bowl of stew tonight. It's not going to be ready until maybe another day. In the presentation of being too warm, we can think of too many logs on the fire, huge roaring fire, and the stew pot is like bubbling, and it's like splattering outside the stew pot. And the heat is so ferocious that the liquid in the stew pot is starting to disappear. And when you have a bowl of soup, it's ready for you to eat. All the vegetables are a mush, and the broth is so condensed that the flavor it's too rich, it's too much. Look, in this analogy, we could potentially see how a follicle gets cooked and ovulates too early, or a follicle that's not getting enough warmth, and so it takes forever for it to finally reach maturation and ovulate. And from a very broad perspective, this is the fundamentals of starting to see how is your body temperature reflecting back out into the world your capacity to grow and nurture a follicle. And as the acupuncturist, how do I need to readjust things so that you can come into balance, to sit beside the stew pot, keep warm, have a beautiful bowl of soup, and feel comfortable in your environment. Thank you for listening. The next video is going to be about sweat. Uh, Not very exciting, but such a key element to the layers of who we are, our physiology. If you have any questions, please post. If you've had any experiences on this, please post. If you like it, hit like button, please. I look forward to seeing you for our next video. Thank you.